All right, these are journal notes for adding and subtracting linear expressions. So we've talked about combining like terms. We've talked about simplifying expressions, which is the same thing. We've talked about distributive property. So now we're talking about adding and subtracting linear expressions. So the first thing we do is distribute if necessary. So for number 1, I have 2x plus 3 plus x plus 4. There is nothing between this plus sign and the second expression, so I don't have anything to distribute. So if I don't have anything to distribute, I can just rewrite this without parentheses, 2x plus 3 plus x plus 4. Now this looks like what we have been doing in class. I just have an expression where I have like terms and I need to combine them. So remember, we always start with our variable and we go in alphabetical order so that our answer is in alphabetical order with the constant at the end. So I start with 2x, and I'm going to circle everything that has an x term. I have 2x, and I have plus x. Remember, the sign goes with that term. The sign in front of it goes with that term. So this is a positive x. I combine them. 2 plus 1 is 3. Keep your variable. Next, I have my constants. Positive 3 plus 4 is positive 7. If it's positive, I'm going to write a plus sign, and my answer is 3x plus 7. If you have a problem like number 2, we have a number on the outside of the first expression, so we have to distribute. This becomes 5 over 1 times 3 over 4. I cannot simplify anything, so I just multiply straight across. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 4 is 4. So I have 15 over 4. Keep your variable. Distribute 5 times negative 4. Remember when we learned our integer rules, we said a positive times a negative is a negative. So 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. And I'm just going to write that down as minus 20. Now I have nothing between the first expression and the second expression except for a plus sign. So I'm just going to write down everything in the second expression exactly how I see it. And now I can combine like terms. I'll start with my x term. When I'm adding fractions, I have to have a common denominator. So the common denominator between 1 and 4 is 4. So 15 over 4 plus 2 over 1. 2 over 1 with a denominator of 4 becomes 8 over 4, because I have to multiply the top and the bottom by 4. 15 plus 8 is 23 over 4. Keep your variable. Negative 20 plus negative 7 is negative 27. Now I can rewrite my improper fraction as a mixed number. 4 will go into 23 5 times with 3 left over. Keep your variable. Minus 27. 5 3/4 x minus. All right, number 3. I am not distributing anything to my first expression, so I'm just going to write that down without parentheses. My second expression, I'm distributing a 2. So I have 2 times 3.1, which is 6.2x. Then I have 2 times negative 10. Remember, you have to keep the sign in front of it. The sign in front of it determines if the term is positive or negative. So that is positive 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. Now I combine like terms. 12x plus 6 2/10 x is 18 2/10. Keep your variable. 19 plus negative 20. Remember when we learned in Unit 1, if my signs are the same, I add and keep the sign. If they are different, a positive number plus a negative number, I subtract. 20 minus 19 is 1. Keep the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number is 20, so my answer is negative 18 2/10 x minus 1. Remember that negative 1 makes that a minus 1. For number 4, I am not distributing anything to my first parentheses, so I just write that down, x plus 7. For my second parentheses, I am distributing 6. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 3 is 18. Now I have an expression where I can combine like terms. X plus 6x is 7x. 7 plus 18 is 25. My answer is 7x plus 25. When you are subtracting linear expressions, look at your first expression to see if you are distributing anything. If you are not, like number 5, just write down what's inside that expression, 6x plus 3. I'm subtracting 2x plus 2. So what happens is, remember, this minus, it's like that's a negative 1, okay? So you're taking the opposite. Remember in our first unit, we learned that the opposite of 3, not absolute value, but the opposite of 3 is negative 3. So what we're doing here is we're taking the opposite of what's inside the parentheses. The opposite of 2x is negative 2x. The opposite of 2 is negative 2. So that minus, when we're subtracting linear expressions, we're taking the opposite of everything inside that parentheses. That doesn't mean necessarily that you're making it negative. It just means that you're taking the opposite of whatever that sign is that's on the inside of the second parentheses. Then you can combine like terms. 6x plus negative 2x is 4x, and positive 3 plus negative 2 is 1. So my answer is 4x plus 1. So for number 6, my first expression, I am distributing a 2. So this is 2 times 1 over 4. 2 over 1 times 1 over 4. Simplify before you multiply. I can simplify my 2 and my 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. So that is 1/2 x. 2 times negative 9. A positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 9 is 18. I'm subtracting, so I'm taking the opposite of whatever's inside the second parentheses. The opposite of 2x is negative 2x. The opposite of negative 7 is positive 7. So that's why I said you are not necessarily making everything negative, because if you have a minus sign or negative inside the parentheses, you're going to have to take the opposite of that. So the opposite of subtracting 7 is adding 7. Okay? So now I combine like terms. 1/2 x plus negative 2x. So my signs are different. That means I'm subtracting 2 over 1 minus 1 over 2. My common denominator is 2. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2 in the first fraction. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. Minus 1/2. Keep your denominator. Subtract your numerator. 4 minus 2 is 3 over 2. My integer rules say different signs subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. So I have subtracted. Now I look for my sign. My bigger number is negative, so that is negative 3/2. I'm going to convert that to a mixed number. 2 will go into 3 one time with a 1 left over. So negative 1.5 x. Now I combine my constants. Negative 18 plus 7. Different signs, I subtract. 18 minus 7 is 11. My bigger number is negative, so my answer is negative 11. And that negative means that I'm subtracting 11. So I have negative 1.5 x minus 11. All right, for number 7, the first thing I do is look at my first expression. There's nothing here inside or in front of the first parenthesis. So I just write down the first expression exactly how I see it. 4x minus 4. When I'm subtracting, I take the opposite of everything in the second parentheses. So the opposite of negative 2x is positive 2x. The opposite of adding 2 is subtracting 2. So this becomes 4x minus 4 plus 2x minus 2. I'm changing the sign of everything in the second parentheses. Now I combine like terms. 4x plus 2x is 6x. Negative 4 plus negative 2 is negative 6. My answer is 6x minus 6. All right, in the last problem, the first expression, I'm distributing a 3. So 3 times 1 5/10 x is 4 5/10 x. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Now, instead of just taking the opposite of everything in the second parentheses, I'm multiplying negative 2 times everything in the second parentheses. I'm using distributive property. So negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x. Negative 2 times positive 3 is negative 6. Now I combine like terms. 4.5x plus negative 4x. My signs are different, so I subtract. 4.5 minus 4 is 5/10. Keep your variable. Now I look at my constant. Negative 12 plus negative 6. My signs are the same, so I add them. 12 plus 6 is 18. And I keep my sign. My sign is negative, so that's negative 18. My answer is 5/10 x minus 18. I cannot combine those. Those are not like terms. That's as simplified as I can make it. If I only have one x term and one constant, then I'm done. I cannot do anything else with it.